This training module is for administrators who have rental assistance grants through the Housing Trust Fund and Bridges programs. It focuses on reporting certifications and head of household changes. Types of certifications include annual, interim, unit transfer, suspension, and termination. Before we get started, I'd like to outline Minnesota Housing's mission, which is to provide access to safe, decent, affordable housing and to build stronger communities across the state. The agency accomplishes this by offering products and services to help Minnesotans buy and fix up their homes, and by supporting the development and preservation of affordable rental housing through both the financing and long-term asset management of projects and developments. The agency has also pioneered a successful model for supportive housing that helps stabilize the lives of some of the state's most vulnerable citizens. This tutorial will outline the differences between certification types, including annual certifications, along with how to report properly. The module will include how to indicate and report certifications later when they actually took place. We'll also review interim reporting, unit transfers, and the effect that unit transfers have on annual certifications. We'll discuss suspensions versus terminations, and lastly, we'll go over head of household changes such as name changes. All certifications are reported to Minnesota Housing using the draw request form and subsequently entered on the monthly Log 1 tab shown on this slide. Draw request submittals represent a true and accurate record of the participants or households you served in that reporting month. On a side note, if you'd like to learn more about the draw request form and how it functions, we recommend viewing other tutorials that can be found on the Rental Assistance for Administrators webpage. All of our tutorials are short and informative and should help you submit accurate monthly reports. Also note that we'll be paying close attention to the reason for certification field and the effective date field to ensure that the data being reported is accurate. Our database flags items where the reason for certification or the effective dates being reported are in conflict to what's been previously reported. We will contact you to resolve these conflicts, which will ultimately affect the timeliness of your reimbursement. Also note that for audit purposes, the data you are submitting on the draw request form is vital for program compliance and reporting, and is not just a way to receive payment reimbursement. Throughout this tutorial, the reason for certification might be referred to as a status. So if you hear the term, it's referring to the participant's last action reported, meaning the certification type, such as annual, unit transfer, interim, termination, or suspension. Every month, the monthly log must remain filled in with every participant's most recent status or certification type, along with all the data for that action. Do not empty the cells from month to month. To elaborate on that statement, there are times when administrators submit the draw request with more empty cells than cells that contain data, and they're only filling in the cells or the fields where the data has changed. That shouldn't be the case. All information on the previously submitted request needs to be retained on the log until the status of the participant changes and the data is updated again. In the example on the slide, Bart Banana's interim was reported effective November 1st, 2017, but the annual certification is due in June. You would leave the interim information from the November interim on the log until the following June when you update the log with the annual certification changes. The only time the data should change on the log is when a new certification takes place, and those changes usually involve unit transfers or interim certifications, which will be discussed later in this tutorial. Keep in mind if there are empty fields, we will not be able to process the draw request form. If this occurs, we will ask that you resubmit. Annual certifications must be reported as effective on the first day of the anniversary month of a participant's entry into the program. In this example, the participant moved in July 1st, 2016. The annual certification is due to become effective on July 1st, 2017. We recommend that you start the Certification in Housing Quality Standards, or HQS inspections, early so that the annual certifications are in compliance with program rules and are reported to Minnesota Housing in a timely fashion. The entry on the bottom of the slide indicates how to properly report an annual certification. Note that the log indicates the July submittal and the action being reported is effective in July. Also included in this picture is the date of next recertification. The red arrow indicates this field, which will need to be altered yearly to reflect the appropriate date. Using this example with an annual effective date of 7/1/2017, the next certification will be due on 7/1/2018. Occasionally, annual certifications are not completed by the time the participant's annual certification should have been effective, which makes it difficult to report accurately and timely. If an annual certification effective date passes with an incomplete certification, we recommend that the administrator submit the draw request form on time, but indicate in the notes field for that particular tenant that they are in the process of annual certification, which is yet to be completed. Refer to the slide. Later, an adjustment would need to be made as well. I'll go over the specifics, however, it's a priority to report the annual certification to Minnesota Housing as soon as it is completed. But keep in mind that the effective date would be retroactive to the participant's anniversary of entry to the program, regardless of when the annual certification process was completed, and as long as the unit passes the HQS inspection. For example, the process for an annual certification for a July 1st effective date might actually begin in May, but for various reasons it was not done at that time, perhaps because the paperwork and inspection information weren't fully completed until August, or the unit had yet to pass inspection. For situations such as these, the administrator should report on the August log that the annual certification is effective July 1st. The participant would have to be on suspend status until the unit passes the HQS inspection. If the HQS inspection does not pass until August, no payment would be reimbursed for July. Depending on when the unit passes inspection, the amount of subsidy or reimbursement may be prorated and reported on the Adjustments tab, as indicated on the slide. Don't forget to include your administrative fee on the Adjustments tab, if applicable. And keep in mind that late, retroactive recertifications may need approval by the program manager. Interim certifications capture income changes for a household outside of the household's anniversary to the program or annual certification time. Interim certifications may be performed when household income increases or decreases, and this results in a change in the amount of rental assistance subsidy and the portion of rent paid by the household. Loss of income, which would result in a decrease in the portion of rent paid by the household, always requires an interim recertification be conducted. The change should be implemented effective the first day of the following month. The need for an interim recertification in the event of increased income is based on administrator policy. For example, some administrators require reporting of all income changes, with interim certifications conducted only when income increases above a certain monthly amount. Some HTF rental assistance administrators require an interim recertification for any increase, regardless of amount, and some require annual income reporting only. Bridges administrators should follow the local HRA guidelines for Section 8 Housing Choice vouchers. All policies should be in writing and applied consistently. Participants are responsible for reporting income changes to the administrator per administrator policy. It is important that administrator policies are communicated to all participants. A participant may be held accountable for consequences, such as a repayment of a rental subsidy overpayment, if the participant fails to report an increase in income in a timely manner as required by administrator policy. Again, interims are meant to capture changes outside of the participant's annual certification, which is the anniversary of a participant's start date. In this example, the participant Bart Banana's subsidy start date is in September, and due to the household income increasing because of a new job effective in December, his newest action reported must be an interim, effective when he started his job. The participant could be held accountable for consequences, such as a payback situation, in the event that the participant fails to report changes in a timely manner. If it is found that a participant did not report income properly and time has lapsed, Minnesota Housing staff requests notification to properly assess and assist in these payback situations. The participant is required to report unit transfers. They must be reported as soon as the participant has knowledge of a moving situation or when the move actually occurs. A unit transfer commonly affects the household income amounts due to rent amount changes. More often than not, unit transfers occur on the first of the month. However, they could be mid-month, in which case they should be reported as such, and a prorated adjustment to the rental assistance amount paid would be recorded on the Adjustments tab. Note, if a participant moves from one unit to another during the month, only one administrative fee will be paid, and there can be no duplication of subsidy. It is important to note that unit transfers affect a participant's annual certification date. Keep this in mind when you are moving toward the annual certification or the anniversary of the participant's program start date. The annual certification date changes according to the unit transfer date. This is because all rental units must pass an HQS inspection to allow for a new participant to move in. Thus, the participant would start a new annual certification date based on that unit passing HQS inspection and the participant qualifying for the new unit. For example, if a participant's usual annual certification due date is in August, but the participant moved into a new unit in June, then the new anniversary or annual certification due date will be June 1st. This will need to be noted on the log as their new next recertification due date. Suspensions must be reported effective on the last day of the month. Current policy states that suspensions may be effective for up to 4 months. Tenants that are in suspend status can be reinstated to the program and will still be eligible to receive rental assistance without reapplying to the program, as long as the reinstatement occurs within the 4-month suspension timeframe. Please note that administrators are required to provide participants with a 60-day notice if there is no change in the second month of their suspend status. If a participant terminates after previously being in suspend status, the termination must be reported following the suspension period. For example, a participant may have been suspended in March, and after 4 months the participant terminated from the program. The termination effective date would be effective in July. Terminations are reported when someone leaves the program or exits the unit. The effective date of the termination must always be reported as the last day of the month. This is because in the case where a participant leaves mid-month, in most cases, landlords expect to keep the full month's rent. If the landlord is willing to return the unspent funds, then they must be returned to the grant and must be reported on the Adjustment tab. Once a termination is reported, program requirements outline that the participant will need to reapply to the program. Head of household changes require an interim certification when one person takes over the rental subsidy of another. In row 12 of the log are section headers 1 through 6. These sections will need to be filled in appropriately for the new head of household and reported as soon as they become effective. Please make note that when entering a new participant, the first and last name must be inputted using all capital letters. This is to help our database properly capture the information. For head of household name changes, an interim certification is not necessarily required. Simply change the name on the Monthly Log 1 tab from the previous name to the new name, and include a note in the comments field in section 6 to further explain the name change, including the person's old name so that we record it properly in our database. We also need this information for audit purposes. An interim would only be required if the household income has changed according to the circumstances outlined in the interim section of this tutorial. The example on the slide indicates that the participant has changed names due to marriage, as indicated in the comments field. Also be aware that when certain demographics have changed, such as the number of adults in the household, it may also affect the household income and require an interim certification. In this instance, Annie Apple's last name changed to Plum, and the household demographics changed as well. As mentioned previously, there are several training modules that have been developed to help you accurately submit your reports. The tutorials are tailored to assist you in the payment reimbursement process and the use of the draw request form. Please view them at your earliest convenience. They are short, informative, and we believe they will be of value as you run your program, train staff, and submit draw request forms for reimbursement. You can find the tutorials by going to the multifamily section of our website at www.mnhousing.gov and clicking Grant Programs that can be found under Multifamily Rental Partners. Select Rental Assistance found at the top and scroll down to the training tutorials. Typing www.mnhousing.gov/sites/multifamily/rental assistance in your browser will also take you to the rental assistance page. We require draw request forms to be submitted using the Multifamily Secure Upload tool that can be found in the Partner Login section of Minnesota Housing's webpage. Our Secure Upload tool provides a secure way for you to submit private data that has been entered on the draw request form. It also allows you to track submitted items and confirm Minnesota Housing's receipt of those items. On Minnesota Housing's main webpage, which can be found at www.mnhousing.gov, click Partner Login on the top of the page. Scroll down to the Multifamily Applications section, click Multifamily Secure Upload tool, and follow the prompts. You will need to enter a recipient email address. Choose the email address for the rental assistance team and follow the prompts. The email address is mhfa.rental-assistance@state.mn.us. You can also access a link to the Secure Upload tool via the Rental Assistance for Administrators page. Simply insert the email address and follow the prompts. All of the steps are outlined in the Upload tool instructions. Again, when you begin the submittal process, it is imperative for you to have the rental assistance email address accessible because the Secure Upload requires that you correctly enter it for successful submission. Remember that the email address is on the last slide of this and other rental assistance tutorials and also can be found on our website. If you have questions regarding the submittal process, please contact the rental assistance team using the same email address. Draw request forms, also known as payment requests, are due on the 15th of every month using our Secure Upload tool that was previously mentioned. Please ensure that they are submitted in a timely manner. If you anticipate that they may be late, notify the rental assistance team at the email address listed on the last slide. Upon processing, payment information is sent to our accounting department, who issues it to MMB, Minnesota Management and Budget, for final disbursement of funds, which typically occurs around the last few days of every month. This concludes the training tutorial. Please direct any questions regarding content to the rental assistance team at mhfa.rental-assistance@state.mn.us. This is also the email address that I referred to earlier, which is required by our Secure Upload tool when you send in your draw request forms. It must be exact upon entry or you will receive an error message. Again, the email is mhfa.rental-assistance@state.mn.us. We appreciate the opportunity to work with you. Thank you for taking the time to watch this tutorial.